Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee. And my flying solo, my co-host Lawrence Luton, was knocked out, not by Will Smith, but COVID. Though on that note, he was not a fan of the Oscars this year. We wish you a quick recovery, dear friend. Let's have a live look at Bitcoin right now. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index currently at $47,229. Bitcoin shooting up over 6% over the past 24 hours. The CoinDesk Ether price ETFs index is at 3340, also soaring about 6.7%. The DFX CoinDesk's DeFi index is at 294, making gains of about 6.5%. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data. The Crypto Markets Update is brought to you by KuCoin, the best place to find the next crypto gem. All right, joining us now to discuss all this green in the crypto markets is Noelle Acheson, head of market insights at Genesis Global Trading, a sister company to CoinDesk in Madrid. Welcome, Noelle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Christine. Great to be with you.
All right, so tell us a bit about what is the catalyst behind all this green we're seeing with Bitcoin and the crypto markets? Why this bounce now?
As usual in crypto markets, Christine, it's never just one thing. There's actually quite a lot of really exciting things to go on. I do have to say these are my opinions, not those of my employers, and nothing I say, as usual, is investment advice. But what we're looking at, basically, Christine, is a general improvement in market sentiment. And our trading desks started commenting last week that they were seeing a more bullish tone. Some derivative market metrics started flashing some signals, and a couple that come to mind, for instance, are the 1 month CME basis for Bitcoin, also the Bitcoin futures open interest. I mean, even just as on Friday, they were both at their highest levels so far this year. We've also seen significant improvement, or should I say signs of growing institutional support just over the past 10 days, Christine. We've seen signals from BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, Cohen, Virtu, Bridgewater, and probably missing a couple. All of them just basically making statements that they believe that the crypto markets are worth dedicating more resources to. We have continued buying from Terra's Luna Foundation Guard, and we also have, through the relatively lackluster markets that we've seen over the past few weeks, continued accumulation going on, judging from on-chain data. We now have over 70% of Bitcoin in circulation is now held in what are called long-term addresses, and over 75% is currently held in what are called illiquid addresses. All of this has set up the Bitcoin market for a sharp move when sentiment eventually turned, which it looks like it has.
All right, so institutional adoption, a lot of buying from crypto firms, like you mentioned, the Luna Foundation Guard. I wonder, so they've set out a goal they've been buying Bitcoin at $125 million increments, allegedly, according to what folks believe is a Luna address, by transferring out Tether, about $125 million increments. They've stated a goal of buying about $3 billion worth of Bitcoin in reserves, and potentially in the longer term, $10 billion. I wonder how sustainable you believe that is.
I believe that they will do what they have said they are going to do. What's actually a more interesting question is this already priced in? And if not, why not? It looks like it's a mixture of both, partly priced in, partly not. The big move yesterday, and this is probably worth clarifying, the jump that held us transfixed for a while was actually because of short covering. So this was a derivatives triggered move up, and also market structure, basically. But we can't overlook the bullish momentum that brought us to a position in the market where those shorts had to be covered. So it's not the whole story. The whole story is the factors that we've talked about before, including the expectation that the Luna Foundation Guard will continue to purchase Bitcoin in the open market. This is more than offsetting the disappointment that we saw last week in the market that the El Salvador Bitcoin bond was not going to happen as planned.
You know, Bitcoin about 15% since Russia's Ukraine invasion, and I wondered how much of the price is related to Ukraine. Something you didn't mention, but perhaps would that explain it at all? Do we have any data that might suggest that?
It is definitely a factor. We don't have concrete data, and even if we did, the on-chain part of it's always somewhat to be treated with skepticism. And of course, the news reporting, especially that coming out of Russia, also needs a degree of skepticism. But it is definitely material, and it's part of the growing confidence that I mentioned earlier. This is growing confidence that Bitcoin's use case as a seizure-resistant store of value is important for the world. It's not just about speculation. It's not just about number go up. We are seeing in our headlines almost every day now cases when this actually really does matter to people. It's not just the war, although that certainly has accelerated. We started seeing that with the Canadian truckers' strike. We started seeing this even as far back as the Afghanistan debacle. This kind of headline is a refreshing change, because you've probably heard this before, Christine, but a couple of years ago, even just a few months ago, people would say that Bitcoin's best advertisement was its price. I think we can agree now that that is no longer its best advertisement. Its best advertisement, just the headlines that we see every day.
Mm-hmm. I wonder about the timing as well, because we've been seeing a lot of these weekend rallies with Bitcoin, with the crypto markets. And why is that? And I noticed that you tweeted out a spike last night price, which coincided with the volumes in this point.
Weekends are thinner, and I think that's the basic reason. Not only are weekends thinner because the US markets tend to be shut, and some people actually like to take weekends off, who knew? Asian markets do account for quite a lot of liquidity, but the volume is thinner on the weekend. So when a sharp move happens, it tends to happen on the weekend. That, combined with the increasing accumulation behavior that I mentioned earlier, means that there is, in general, less Bitcoin available for new entrants, which underscores the idea that when the market moves, it'll move fast, and that trigger is actually likely to happen on the weekend. An interesting feature, Christine, is that we saw the short covering push the price up sharply. We saw the expected sharp movement over the weekend. We were just talking about this last week, in fact. But what's interesting is that the price has stayed above 47,000 now for some time being relative. So far today, that's a strong signal that this wasn't just a market structure issue.
Any other coins you're looking at in the alts with Ether, Noelle?
Ether is interesting. I look at all of them, as you probably know, and there's a lot going on, especially further down the line on some of the new DeFi opportunities and the development that is happening, especially on layer zeros. But Ether is particularly interesting because I'm hearing, you're probably hearing the same thing, increasing interest in Ether, given the growing conviction that the merge will happen within the next few months, increasing research into what that'll actually mean for Ether, increasing development from apps getting ready for the merge. It's an exciting time to be looking at Ether. This is not investment advice. I do want to repeat that. But it's a fascinating experiment. And we have never had such an audacious technological experiment play out in real time. They're trying to change the way Ether works, while Ether is already easily the largest layer one network. So that's going to be something fascinating to watch. The search for yield continues, and we're examining how the yield will change on Ether, and as well as the yields of how will they change on some of the other layer one and staking assets that are out there. The search for yield is something that I believe will continue to intensify, even if rates continue to go up, and then there is an if there. So I've never seen so much diversity in the opportunities in the crypto market before. And as you know, I've been looking at this for a long time. It's never been this exciting and this interesting. Plus, one more thing, Christine, just take a look at the funding that is being raised, not just by companies, but by ecosystem funds and venture capital funds. That funding is going to be deployed, and that funding is going to invest in and generate further technological development as well as mainstream interest.
Mm-hmm. Just one last question before the weekend, we had talked a lot of $1,000 being a key resistance level for Bitcoin, and we did see it tested time and time again on Friday. It is now broken through that level. So where do we go from here? Is that the key critical level before we see higher highs?
I would be honest with you, I'm not a technical analyst, so I don't know is the answer. I do know there is momentum. I do know that the market structure is in favor of things going higher. I do want to say, though, that there's still so much uncertainty in the market at the moment. We've never been in a situation where we are raising rates just as inflation starts to pick off, just as it looks like the economy might start to turn. And the stock market does not seem to be taking that into account. That's not terribly surprising. Stock market has traditionally gone up as rates go up and tends to turn as rates peak. But this is a very different macroeconomic environment. The uncertainty of predicting where rates are going to go while there is a war on in Europe, this is something that only the very, very brave would dare to attempt at this stage. So in spite of the change to a more bullish tone in the crypto markets, there's obviously an underlying warning of caution there, because depending on what happens with the war, and wars by their very nature are very unpredictable, things could still turn very ugly very fast.
All right. A lot of uncertainty ahead. Noelle, thank you so much for joining us. That was Genesis Global Trading Head of Market Insights, Noelle Acheson. Ukraine's crypto community, now refugees locked in a cyber warfare. We talk to cybersecurity firm Hacken next. Checking in on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price CX index is currently at $47,229. Bitcoin is up over 6% over the past 24 hours. The CoinDesk Ether price ETX index is at 33.45. ETH is angling for that 7% gain, and the DFX CoinDesk DeFi index is at 294, also making gains about 6.4% the past 24 hours.
The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
Ukraine's Minister of Digital Transformation has called for an IT army last month, asking for digital talent to fight for Ukraine on the cyber front. Joining us now to discuss is Dyma Budorin, co-founder and CEO of Ukraine-based cybersecurity firm Hacken. Welcome, Dyma. Thank you for joining us. So you had a staff of about 70 in Ukraine. You were able to relocate 50 of your colleagues outside the country before Russia's invasion. And at first, you only planned to be gone for about a month, but those plans have been extended. So just first off the bat, how are you doing?
Good morning. My name is Dyma. I'm from Ukraine. I'm doing pretty okay. The word refugee, I don't think it's a correct word. I'm a citizen of the world that works for Hacken, and which headquarters is in Ukraine, but temporarily not available. We're doing fine. Our life has changed, definitely. Now no more time to relax. So only business operations and active participation in the first world cyber war.
Interesting. Yeah, I know the word refugee is certainly jarring, but you are engaged now in coordinating a cyber war, as you say, to support Ukraine. So tell us what's going on.
There is one of the reasons of why we're having a war is a huge propaganda monster on the that is being coordinated by Putler Federation. And this propaganda monster is brainwashing Russian people minds, and they do believe that right now there is special operations to remove fascist nationalists from Ukraine and to rescue Ukrainian people. And it's even 21st century, and we all have access to information, but unfortunately it's a reality in our neighbor on the north. So the task of Ukraine IT army at the first end is to fight with Russian propaganda, meaning to get into the news websites and do certain defaces, or if it's not possible, like deface means content switch, if not possible, to DDoS them heavily so that they are not live. And the second direction of the cyber war is to get into critical infrastructure segments of Russian economy, so that are tightly connected with supply chain of Russian army, and to create some problems to them. The third direction is to get the databases of Russian people and to make a message to them, a message of truth, and a call to wake up.
Yeah, so one of the databases that has been hacked successfully by this IT army was Yandex Food. They're basically the Uber of Russia. I've seen the names, the home addresses, the phone numbers of folks that use this service in Russia. I wonder and the database is available publicly right now through the IT army. So what do you do with this information when you have it?
Yeah, so first there is a group of people that are making actual direct calls. So it's like more than 10 million calls already made. And people are, even though Russians are very afraid to speak on the phone and to answer because they have already criminal responsibility. If you say no war, peace, these words, if you say it publicly, you can get into jail. So, but like, so there are calls, there are mails, messages, and there is even a traffic advertisement, so that people are getting the direct messages depending on who they are.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, because it's incredible that, in this day and age, as you mentioned, with the internet, so little information is getting to a lot of Russians in Russia. But we have an example of a deface tactic that is being used in this cyber warfare. And in this case, it's changing content on Russia websites to show stop war messages. What other attacks are being deployed against Russia? You also mentioned DDoS attacks, which is distributed denial of service to block information on supply chains. Tell us, and Russia critical infrastructure. Tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, so the first day of the war, we have made a decision to switch one of our products, this balancer, the DDoS stress testing tool, towards attack over the Russian propaganda. So we made a call to Ukrainian people and international community to join us and to download the app, so that our DDoS hit is hard enough to block a lot of propaganda websites. So there were around 50,000 downloads, and simultaneously more than 15K people were attacking Russian propaganda websites using our disbalancer tool the first days. And so you can, in order to compare what kind of attack, is that Russian internet was experiencing. The most comparable was the biggest attack ever counted over Microsoft last year. So it was 2 times bigger what we were doing with this balancer over Russian over Russian propaganda websites. So there is one very interesting thing that is currently that the internet is currently seeing, is that YouTube and other big social media, Western social media, they are blocking IP addresses of Russian Federation from using their services. And from the other side, Russians are also blocking news and international media websites, so that to build the wall that Russian people don't see the news. And from our side, we are keep attacking and DDoSing them with mostly international IPs. So what does it mean? That the attacks are gonna increase in power, and Russians will have no other choice either to completely block all international IPs from entering Russian internet, RUNET. And we will see that this will turn on certain changes on the how the internet is divided, and we will see first big alliances that follow the same rules over who can watch their content and who can't. So yeah, everything is going to this direction. Russians soon will have their own closed internet, even worse than China.
Dyma, what can people do to help if they want to help in this sort of cyber warfare and help Ukrainians?
There are a lot of donations, different ones. Some funds are helping armies, some funds are helping refugees, some funds are helping with medical. For example, I was approached by my Twitter follower from UK, and he proposed help. And my wife's sister right now, that was without connection 2 weeks in Mariupol, she is going through the process of going with her family and 2 kids to UK. So yeah, this is an amazing example how people all over the world are helping us. But if you want to participate in first cyber war, yes, thisbalancer.com, you will even get the medal after our victory. But yeah, we need people to download this balancer and help us to hit harder on Putler propaganda.
What I found interesting is that people all over the world, including Russians, are trying to help in this effort, as many do not agree and have had to flee Russia because of the Putin regime. I also want to ask you about your thoughts on Anonymous.
So Anonymous, even though there are some clones of Anonymous and so on, this is more like, like a symbol, like a PR name to describe the collective efforts of all the hackers in the world. So if you look at the description of the first account of Anonymous, it's collective, meaning. So once some hacker on his own did some good or stuff to bring us closer to the victory, and this result worth of sharing, he is sending this information to Anonymous, and they are making a publication. So Anonymous is not something concrete; is collective efforts towards Russian Federation.
All right. Dyma, thank you for joining us. And my heart goes out to you and your people. And I hope, you get to go back to Ukraine and bring your company back there too very soon. Dyma, thanks for joining us. That was Hacken co-founder and CEO.
Bye-bye.
Dyma Budorin. All right, coming up, we'll check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day and a soon-to-be launched DeFi ETF in Brazil by Hashdex.
What's up, everybody? This is Spencer Dinwiddie.
And I'm Solo Cisse.
And this is New Money, brought to you by CoinDesk.
All I hear, go get the money. So I go get it. Hate means I do something right. So I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him. I hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I'ma let him.
What we'll see is money not only being exchanged for this digital currency, but the frictionless movement across borders. It's gonna be able to flow as easy as a text message.
Staying true to yourself, right? Like, you've always been true to yourself.
I just want to share that with everybody. You know, you could be yourself in full capacity.
It's our duty to take our visions and be fearless in our pursuit.
Be my most authentic self and show people that, look, I'm an athlete, and yes, I'm also a part of the LGBT community.
My goal is to have, my own NFT, my own entire IP, like my own everything.
How do you think, blockchain and crypto impacts the way you think about it?
I think everyone has like some sort of like, so like, how'd you get into Bitcoin? It's like asking someone if they smoke. It's like, yo.
Embracing where the world is going. And when the whole world shut down, we saw just how important tech was.
It was more so of my style and the foods that I cooked that kind of pushed me. I wanted to live the lifestyle of an athlete or an artist while doing what I love.
Having that open mind, having that flexibility just allows you to be of so much more service to, youth or society in general.
Gamers, maybe it's because you guys just hustle different.
Anything you want to be great at, you got to put hours and hours in every single day.
Welcome back. Time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy Manager Nick Day, also the editor of CoinDesk The State of Crypto. All right. So the crypto exchange is hitting a milestone in its quest to gain a Federal Reserve master account, and as well as equal treatment with traditional banks. Tell us what this is all about.
Good morning. Yeah. So sometime in the last week or so, it seems that Kraken's a Wyoming-based bank entity, so Payward Financial and Kraken Bank, received a routing number from the American Bankers Association. And this is kind of, on one hand, this kind of is not a huge deal. It's just a routing number. It doesn't in and of itself mean anything. However, it is a necessity for Kraken to secure or have access to a Federal Reserve master account, which would allow it to tap the global financial system, be able to deposit funds at the Fed, basically be treated as a full bank. Every nationally regulated bank right now has these services which allow it to, do what banks do. And this is kind of something that Kraken, as well as Avanti, which is another Wyoming-based entity, have been seeking for quite a while now. They applied last year, and it's been a long process. But what's really interesting is last month, the Federal Reserve actually published a supplemental document basically adding to an already circulating request for information saying, if we were to do this, what do you think about, these certain processes we might implement to make sure that entities that are not, federally regulated, federally insured, can tap master accounts without compromising the financial system. So lots of interesting little kind of nuggets saying, the Fed is very seriously considering this.
Interesting. Has Kraken also expressed interest in becoming a bank? And, what will they be able to do with a Fed master account that they weren't able to do before, if they get it?
Yeah, so, Kraken's been working on this for a while. Kraken, as well as Avanti, are Wyoming special purpose depository institutions. So Wyoming has its own regulatory framework that basically allow for something, that is akin to being a bank. And Kraken has one of these charters, as well as Avanti. If they get the access to the Federal Reserve master account, that will really kind of expand the number of services they can provide, as well as the number of customers they can provide these services for. Now, you may remember the crypto industry has traditionally had a very difficult time accessing banking services. A lot of exchanges have said that they are, unable to tap banking services or have been kicked off of their banks because of their engagement with crypto. Should Kraken and or Avanti be granted master account access, it's very possible they can fill this need and act as, the banks for the crypto industry.
Yeah, that'd be super interesting, as many folks in the crypto industry earn in crypto, so if they're able to have a bank that will easily serve as on and off ramps into the traditional system would surely be helpful. All right, Nick, thank you so much for the update. That was CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Policy and Regulation, Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com. Meanwhile, Brazilian asset manager Hashdex is launching a DeFi ETF on Brazilian stock exchange B3 this Wednesday. The ETF will trade under the ticker DeFi11. Joining us now to discuss is Samir Kerbage, Chief Technology Officer at Hashdex. Hello there, Samir. Thanks for joining us. So how does this DeFi ETF work? What are the allocations?
Hi, Christine. Good to see you. Good morning. So taking a step back, Hashdex is a global crypto asset manager. We're specialized in bringing access to crypto for traditional investors and financial advisors in what we call simple, trusted, and regulated way. So we started with launching the global first crypto index ETF, which Hash11, tracking the Nasdaq crypto index here in Brazil. And now we're launching a set of specific investment theses in crypto that will be accessible through traded products. So we just launched the DeFi11. It's an ETF that is tracking an index that we co-developed with CF Benchmarks, which aims to represent or invest in the whole value chain of DeFi applications. So that's the first sector-based product we bring it to the market. And then we're launching Web311, which is a product that invests in the smart contract platforms thesis and the growth of the Web 3.0.
All right. I'm at the demand, because last month we did an article on this at CoinDesk, and we saw that it had attracted about 2,200 investors for a total amount of just $10.5 million, which was about a tenth of what it was expected to capture. So have things improved since then?
So investor is growing consistently. We're also taking some inflows. And the most important for us is to consider this as an option for long-term investors. So here in Brazil right now, Hashdex has close to $800 million in AUM, coming from more than 250,000 investors. From this AUM, something like 25%, 30% is coming from institutional investors. And our goal here is provide this access to those investors that are looking to invest in crypto in the regulated exchange on B3, the Brazilian exchange. So those products we're launching in the market are a consequence of months of conversations between involving financial advisors, institutional investors, and measuring retail interest. So we're really thinking about this on the long term, and we're still very positive on the growth of those investment theses on the long term and the positioning of those products to capture those clients that want to invest in DeFi on Web 3.0 in a safe, trusted, and regulated way.
Mm-hmm. I see some of the tokens included are Uniswap, Aave, Compound, Maker, and among others in a broad array. Last month there was a Brazilian asset manager, QR Capital, that also launched a DeFi ETF on B3, which follows the Bloomberg Galaxy DeFi Index. I wonder, how does yours compare?
So the main difference about those products is that we decided to go with an approach and build an index that actually represents the whole value chain of DeFi. So this index not only invests in the DeFi applications like Uniswap, Compound, and Aave, but also in the whole infrastructure behind DeFi. So it has supporting protocols like Chainlink, like Polygon, and also the smart contract platforms that back and support all the DeFi infrastructure. So the construction of the index, and of course the experience of Hashdex as a global asset manager since 2018, specialized in simple and secure product, this is what we think it's going to make a difference for this product.
Mm-hmm. Switching topics, we noticed that there's a Sao Paulo paper reporting that Coinbase is acquiring 2TM, which owns Latin America's largest crypto brokerage, Mercado Bitcoin. Any truth to these rumors? Anything that you may have heard?
Yeah, we can't possibly know. So rumors in the market, we can't confirm. We don't know like where they came from and if it's true. What we see is that the Brazilian market is booming in terms of investor interest in crypto. So both from the regulated side, we've seen like immense growth in funds and ETFs here in Brazil, offering access to crypto thanks to a very robust regulatory framework. We're also seeing regulation passing in the Congress to regulate crypto assets and regulate the intermediaries handling crypto assets. That will give more predictability and open space for innovation for exchanges and digital wallets. And we're seeing a lot of different international exchanges coming to Brazil with thinking that Brazil is one of the most important markets they have globally. So that confluence of investor interest, international exchanges coming to Brazil creates an environment where those types of deals might happen.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how there is a lot of attraction and boom in the crypto industry in Brazil. I wonder, particularly with DeFi, is it viewed as a store of value in Brazil, or how is it being used? And how do you see the future of DeFi working alongside centralized finance? Will it overtake the other, or will they be complementary?
That's a great question. And during the launch of this product, we had a lot of conversations with institutional investors. And actually, it was a record high in terms of interest from institutional investors. They all want to hear about the investment thesis on DeFi, what DeFi is, and what is it disrupting? Is this changing the financial system or completely disrupting the financial system, or are they going to coexist? So that's a great question for the future. My take is that probably DeFi will integrate with the traditional financial system and will modernize the traditional financial system. So we'll probably see banks and financial institutions getting more involved in DeFi, bringing real-world assets to DeFi, and then start using DeFi as kind of like a back office to offering more efficient financial service to the general public. So the good thing about DeFi is that any user can interact, including the banks, right? So individual users can use DeFi, but actually we see that probably what will gain scale over time is traditional financial institutions coming to DeFi and using DeFi as an infrastructure to offer global financial services in an efficient way.
All right. I'm excited for that future, Samir. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your insights. That was Hashdex CTO Samir Kerbage.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Time to check in with Crypto Twitter for our tweet of the day. This is from investor and researcher Lynn Alden, who we all know and love in Crypto Twitter, tweeting, asking which fiat currency will replace the dollar as the global reserve currency is asking the wrong question. Having a single country's fiat currency / bond at the heart of the global reserve system was the anomaly to begin with. Interesting to ponder. All right, that's it for First Mover. I'm your host, Christine Lee. In the meantime, check out The Hash at noon Eastern and all about Bitcoin with yours truly at 3 o'clock Eastern. You're watching CoinDesk TV. Also next up, stay tuned for the daily forecast to see what's happening in the Asia crypto markets.
If you know anything about the history of crypto, you're sure to remember the name Mt. Gox. But what happened after the hack? Welcome to the Daily Forecast, March 28th, 2022. I'm Justin Solomon of Forecast, covering all things blockchain. Mt. Gox's co-founder Mark Karpeles was arrested in 2015 and years of investigation followed, but now Karpeles is back, and in a bittersweet development, he's built a new company based on the lessons he's learned. And in an exclusive interview, he's also told Forecast about plans to distribute the bitcoins still held by the defunct exchange. We've got that story, plus a whole lot more coming up. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world.
Join thousands of NFT traders who already start their day on CryptoSlam.
Turning our attention first to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, entering now the 6th week since the Russian invasion began. Well, now Ukraine's Ministry of Digital Transformation has embarked on a project to chronicle the invasion via NFTs in its new Meta History Museum of War. In a tweet, the museum said it is based on a deep intention to keep the memory of real wartime events via blockchain, as well as to, quote, raise charitable donations to support Ukraine. The Warline NFT collection features screen grabs of news reports, silhouettes of military equipment, and images of explosions representing events throughout the invasion. Each NFT is on sale for 0.15 ETH or about $490 US, with proceeds going to the military and civilian aid for the country. Cryptocurrency, of course, has proven a major source of funding for Ukraine throughout the conflict, with almost $100 million US received so far via DAOs and direct financing. Meanwhile, over in China, the country has lofty aims for carbon neutrality, and a partnership offering cross-border digital carbon credit trading services is the latest move towards that goal. Chinese real estate giant Greenland Group has formed the partnership through its financial arm with Singapore-based Metaverse Green Exchange, or MVGX. The deal will allow accredited institutional investors to trade digital carbon credits via MVGX's platform on the Guizhou Green Finance and Emissions Exchange, which currently only services Chinese domestic investors. MVGX's co-founder Bao Bai told Forecast that despite China's crackdown on cryptocurrencies, the country is open-minded on leveraging metaverse technology for sustainable efforts. Now, back in 2020, President Xi Jinping proposed aims of having carbon emissions peak by 2030 and reaching carbon neutrality by 2060. You can find those stories and a whole lot more at forecast.news. Over in the markets, cryptocurrencies are off to a great start this week, with the top 10 firmly in the green Monday morning in Asia, and Bitcoin, the largest crypto by market cap, headed north of the $47,000 US mark for the first time since January. Forecast Pradipta Mukherjee takes a look at the market action.
After a couple of months of trading below the $45,000 US mark, Bitcoin spiked early Monday Asia time, hitting $47,300 US. With one expert telling Forecast there were two factors behind the move.
Now, we can look towards the fact that stocks have been trading very, very well. They have been supported despite concerns around the war in Ukraine and, of course, Federal Reserve tightening. And we do need to be mindful that cryptocurrencies have been trading like a risk asset. The second part of it as well is the head of the Russian state Duma for energy. He said, listen, if friendly countries want to pay in rubles or lira or yuan, that is absolutely fine. But he basically said at the end of the interview, you can also trade Bitcoins.
Most of the top 50 cryptocurrencies ranked by CoinGecko mirrored Bitcoin's price action, with the global crypto market capitalization flirting around $2.2 trillion US. Bitcoin has also recently been embraced by Terra founder Do Kwon, who plans to rack up $10 billion US worth of Bitcoin as reserves for its stablecoin ecosystem. Aside from Bitcoin, Sycamore says Ethereum is something to watch out for after its merger. 2 weeks ago, the Ethereum blockchain passed its final public test before the highly anticipated transition.
What's happened is we've gone from there being the basic mechanism is going to proof of stake now for Ethereum instead of proof of work. You can see that it has been a very productive 2 to 3 weeks for Ethereum. Ethereum's up about 30% as well from its lows, and it's now knocking on the door of 3,300.
The question now is, will we see Bitcoin breaking the $52,000 US mark soon? Sycamore says it is possible. For Forecast, I am Pradipta Mukherjee.
And finally, remember Mt. Gox, once the largest Bitcoin exchange? It collapsed in 2014 after $1 billion worth of Bitcoin was hacked and stolen. But now founder Mark Capellas is back, and he's created a company built on lessons he learned. In an exclusive interview with Forecast, he told us about UnGox, which aims to be the first comprehensive rating agency for crypto exchanges around the world. Forecast Carolyn Wright has more.
Mt. Gox was one of the first Bitcoin exchanges in the world, beginning automated trading back in July 2010. It once represented over 80% of the global trading volume. However, that all came crashing down after 2014's hack. Founder Mark Karpeles was first arrested in Japan in 2015 and eventually indicted on 3 charges. But after years of investigation, in 2019 a panel of judges found him innocent on the charges of embezzlement and of breach of trust. However, he was found guilty of improperly handling electronic funds and handed a 4-year suspended sentence. That means that if he behaves himself and doesn't break the law, he won't go back to prison and is a free man. Karpeles spoke to investigative journalist Jake Adelstein for Forecast on the wisdom he's gained from the saga.
Mark has learned from his own failures and his time and his hubris and his failure to pay attention to key details and infrastructure or delegate authority, that cryptocurrency exchanges can be very vulnerable to hackers or bad actors within a company. And having learned from that bitter experience, he decided that he would put those lessons to use and create something that I think we all feel the cryptocurrency world needs, which is a kind of a ratings agency. Because as far as I know, there is no really good objective ratings agency to tell you this cryptocurrency exchange is reliable, or this one is not, or this one has suspicions of money laundering, or this one failed several years ago.
UnGox will provide the ratings by conducting checks on key areas like technology, transparency, people, and legal context in order to identify any red flags in operations. Karpeles is also set to issue NFTs, which will grant former Mt. Gox customers a lifetime of free access to the new website.
The NFTs are essentially a key to the database that also has a value in and of itself, as any NFT does. But so not only do you get something that may go up in value, but you also have this key that gives you permanent access to the database at the top levels. So when you consider that Mt. Gox had about over a million users, there's 1 million people who'll be eligible to use this service for basically free. So that, as Mark says, they don't get goxed again.
Indeed, Karpeles showing how he's not lost his sense of humour about events, with the name UnGox, a subtle recognition of the Mt. Gox name having been turned into a term used to describe a crypto exchange's failure. UnGox is due to launch in Q3 of this year, with basic ratings information free, but subscribers offered more detailed information, along with alerts on any ratings changes. Meanwhile, Mt. Gox investors who lost out in 2014's hack could be in for some good news.
If you've been following what the trustees have been putting out about Mt. Gox, they are definitely recruiting people and getting and preparing to pay them back. That's public knowledge, but it looks like it's going to be sooner than later, perhaps even this year.
The exchange had around 200,000 bitcoins when it went bankrupt, and their value has appreciated considerably since then. So we'll be keeping watch for more details on that potential reimbursement. For Forecast, I'm Carolyn Wright.
And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Justin Solomon. Until next time.